T-minus 3, 2, 1, 0.
All right. Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of the Launch Sequence Podcast. Today is episode Master Chief, which is just another way of saying it is episode 117, and I'm happy to be here for that. This is your go-to place for weekly space game podcast stuff, where we talk about mostly Star Citizen. Today is Star Citizen, but we travel, we explore every once in a while. But today I've brought on Captain Cargo, Mr. Fancy Landings himself, Jack Axton. Been on here a couple times, but happy to have you back on for a good talk, dude. How you doing?
Not too bad, Tomato. Not too bad at all. Thank you for having me once again. It is always a pleasure to be here. I gotta say, if I'm gonna be anywhere, this is definitely the place to talk stuff.
Well, yeah, it's been. When is the last time you were on? You were on here earlier this year, right?
I want to say it was. Well, we were actually going to do one earlier this year.
Right.
Was right there at, I want to say, end of December, January, and I actually ended up catching the Rona, and dude, that put me out for months.
Yeah.
So
okay.
I think this is actually finally that rescheduling.
Yeah, that's right. Because I wanted to do a talk with you about the overall cargo refactor with 318 and stuff. I don't think we had gotten a chance to meet back up after that was in. So I guess that can fold into today's discussion, because what we're really going to be talking about is 3.20, the Hull C coming in, how cargo has kind of changed the update with the Hull C, or maybe how it hasn't. And we'll slide in a little bit of conversation about CitizenCon and future expectations as well. But how have you been? How's life been treating you ever since the Rona?
Man, I'm gonna say it's got a lot better. No longer dying. This is actually you've caught me right in the middle of moving. I'm actually in a new place now, in Little Rock, Arkansas, instead of my little podunk town. So things are open after 9 o'clock. I actually have a bigger studio area. Now, if I'm actually going to use that to do more things, that's probably a lie, but at least I can tell myself that I'm going to. But yeah, things have been on the up and up, and I'm looking forward to actually getting to be able to set up more stuff. And I apologize. I actually have a camera. I have been using said camera, but it's still in a box. So you get the box icon one last time.
It's the box is a repeat favorite. I think people are stuck on the box at this point. I don't know if you can make a comeback from it now. The box is Jack.
I thought about making like a VTuber rig of just the box.
Where's the mouth? Would you?
I don't know. It would just kind of wiggle around sometimes.
Okay.
That would be the beauty of it. Like, it doesn't actually move because it's a box.
I feel like I may have seen you around Star Citizen. Wiggling boxes moving around with no apparent force on them. Sounds familiar.
Yeah, exactly.
Make the box my my background. We just green screen myself onto your box screen. Hey, folks are saying that you are a little bit quiet. Could you possibly raise your gain at all while I'm
one second
on my own? Sure. You're blowing out my ears, but everybody needs it a little bit louder. You know how it is. And while Jack is taking care of that, I already kind of went over what we'll be talking about today. Basically, just really getting an idea of how cargo hauling is going to work in the game with 3.20. We know that they are working towards getting physicalized cargo and things to work a little bit better in terms of the cargo decks and the new tractor beam functionality, and even cargo missions that they've been introducing us to, and like the progress tracker and stuff. But people still want to know, is it worth doing right now as a profession? Mining is getting very good updates. Salvage is getting some good missions. Those are good professions to go into. Is cargo hauling still going to be something that people should be given a shot at? So what is your initial take on that so far?
Well, first off, I want to make sure this is okay. Hopefully I'm not blowing your ears out.
That's okay. What do my ears matter?
I mean, you say that now. You're gonna need those eventually.
Yeah,
but hopefully that's all right. If the gain is still too low, I can raise it up again. I just wanted to do it in increments.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
hopefully that's okay. Now, if you could repeat the question for me one more time.
Yes, of course. So where is cargo? We're going to go into detail about how we've gotten to where we are now, but where is cargo hauling sitting for you right now after you've had a little bit of time in the PTU?
On a shelf. No, it's okay. So the thing about cargo hauling in the PTU, as long as you're not touching a hull C, pretty much nothing else has changed except for the size of the boxes. Like it is identical. As long as you don't move the boxes, you're not going to see a difference whatsoever. But if you have a hull C, and you've been waiting on the hull C since it went for sale back in 2015, I believe. It's it it's rough. It needs some polishing. It needs some work. Now again, it is a tier 0. I understand that it is a tier 0, so I'm not going to rag on it as it is not a completed thing. Things could
Well,
still be changed,
when
but
you say tier 0, do you mean the ship or like what do you mean exactly?
oh, the ship itself, like the design of the ship is fine. The hull C itself is fine. But all the processes involved with trading in the hull C is it's kind of a mess, honestly.
Were you surprised to see it come into the game in that state, considering how long we've been waiting for this new functionality past the first cargo refactor?
Honestly, not really. Like I'm gonna give him a pass. I know I sound very complaining. I'm gonna give him a pass on it being messy because they had to do some new things for it. And sometimes you just kind of spitball and see what works. But I wasn't surprised. I was still a little hopeful, but when I saw it, it was like, that's to be expected. And to be fair, they did give us an inside Star Citizen that kind of outlined the process. They just didn't outline the entire process.
I feel like I'm hearing your expectations having been lowered over years years of practice with an answer like that.
I mean, yeah, like there's okay, like if I can, there seems to be this disparity in the amount of hype and information we get on certain types of gameplay. Like we get tons of information about combat gameplay. And admittedly that works good on a trailer. Like, guns and explosions are amazing to sell.
Yeah, it's like
But
when the promo pictures for your mining and cargo hauling vehicles have them engaging in a dogfight.
exactly, like I don't think there's been a single trailer for a patch that has not involved combat in every single scene. So, I get it, like it sells, but it always seems like anything that is not combat kind of gets treated as like the unloved stepchild when it comes to getting any sort of hype or information. Because like you go on the forums and like you'll have like Yogi Clad saying, "Hey, by the way, in a new patch, the dispersal for the Inferno is going from like point whatever to point four." Like we're getting exacting numbers, and then Trade, which has had several iterations, hasn't received a single mention in a patch note since 3.6.
Really? Like you've watched all the patch notes and there's not been any mentions of trading?
Every single patch note. I have gone through every single patch note since like all the major ones since 3.6. That was the last one. And all it says is it just updated commodities. Like, now I get maybe they want you to go out and discover it, but it's a very. There's been a lot of changes since 3.6 that just never ever get put into a patch note. And aside from 3 point, like our patch now mentioning that the whole C is added, I guarantee you it's not going to mention a single thing about the economy on the final patch note.
It's weird too because we got those quantum additions in the commodities surrounding repair refuel and rearm, and besides the fact that they did also say that after that update to the economy, we would be seeing additional work to the quantum simulation every patch after that. But
Yeah.
they also
Yeah.
didn't. It sounds like they didn't really talk much about that in regards to trade either during the patch notes when that changed, because that was really just a change for us using the services rather than the commodities surrounding the services themselves, right?
Yeah, and like also to go back to that when they added the whole quantum thing for like refuel, repair, all that. Um, I actually took a Starfarer out and visited every single location multiple times to get the prices, like price per like a fuel tank on a Starfarer, because there's no real standard unit of measurement, but I could use that as a standard unit of measurement. And it turns out there were only two prices for each type of fuel. There was either a in demand price or a not in demand price. So it was actually a very binary system
Oh,
for a first foray.
why do you think that is? Like, if you just had to spitball an idea of why the quantum economy really hasn't taken any sort of hold, a lot of people were hoping that this patch with the whole C coming in might be finally the time that people start to see that stuff. But the patch has come and not quite gone, but I think we got a pretty good idea of what's included there. It's not looking like there's going to be anything major changing, as you've said.
Yeah, and I mean, this is just all conjecture. Don't put any weight to my words. But the best thing I could come up with is having to lay the groundwork and throwing something in just to make sure it works. The thing doesn't actually have to be viable. They just have to make sure it works, and they'll come back to it later. But with all the focus on Squadron 42 and all the personnel being more devoted to that instead of the PU, basically it seems like they're getting systems into work and then saying they'll come back to it later. So that's the best thing I can come up with, making sure that the groundwork is there. They've laid a foundation, and they'll build the house sometime later. Far, far later.
Much later. Yeah. So when would be your hope that we might start seeing some additions to this trade economy, some improvements to that gameplay?
I mean, I would like to say now. I've only been waiting 9 years, but I would like to see, honestly, some with Pyro. I know Pyro itself is not an economically advantaged system. Like, that's the whole point of it. But it would give us a secondary system. And instead of, trading from Pyro, bringing stuff to Pyro would be nice to see.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, you can just rename some stuff, add a few zeros, and I would be good. Like, we don't really need a lot to see an update to the trade economy. We just need to see things that are not so linear.
Right.
And that's been the problem since 3.6 is just, well, I've got this money, so I trade this until I get this much money, and then I trade that, and that's what I do. There's been no reason to really adjust anything else. And
So the problem really is that everything is a straightforward trade and there's no value to the things based on their location.
yeah, like everything is like every commodity we have right now basically just has like a placeholder name and an arbitrary value. Like, okay, astatine. You can buy boatloads of the stuff off of like ETA and go sell it. Astatine is like one of the rarest naturally forming things on Earth. Like, all the astatine in the world, I think right now could basically fit into the palm of my hand. But I can go fill up a caterpillar with it every 10 minutes. So it's just like a lot of the things we have in the game are just commodity A, commodity B,
Right.
with value C.
Yeah. Okay, I see. So it doesn't even feel like you're really living in the world that these materials exist in.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's basically like you have a system that you can go participate in, but in all honesty, we're playing pretend. None of this affects anything. It's just, here, man, you can go truck.
So would you say that it's worth it for people to do this for gameplay? With the state that it's in and the fact that it doesn't look like they're really adding much to it, is it worth it for folks to still be excited about possibly trading things or finding trade routes that are specific to what they want to do in 3.20?
Now, okay, as much as I have ragged on it, it's still worth it. It's definitely still worth it. The finding of the trade routes thing, basically, like if you're fresh to it, once you've done your initial research and put boots on the ground and actually done it a few times and found out what works for you or what's comfortable for you, then that's pretty much it. Like you don't have to do that anymore. The actual act of hauling is still fun. Like, I do it every day despite my complaints. Like I do it every day and still enjoy it. Like it is both enjoyable, it's refreshing in a way, which it's somehow comfortable yet different at the same time. You're doing the same thing, but it's a little bit different each time. You still have to pay attention just a little bit, but you can still kind of sit back and relax. Like you still got to land, you got to touch down without blowing up your massive hauler in a super tiny hangar.
That's the part I'm not
You
very
always
good at.
like, yeah, you do the thing where like you get back to the seat and you're going to be 9 times out of 10 in a place where nobody is going to pirate you, and yet you're still going to pop a scan to make sure the horizon is clear and still kind of look out, even though you may not have met somebody for weeks now. You still have that, well, it could happen today. Now, all that goes out the door if you go to SMO 18 right now, which is basically discount legal jump town. But yeah, like it's one of those things where it's a routine, but there's enough wiggle room inside that routine to give you free form, gameplay.
And what you're talking about with it kind of being almost monotonous in that you do it 9 times out of 10, you're good. That one time you get like an attack, right? I feel like when it comes to making cargo missions or cargo gameplay around hauling for this game, it's got to come back to this super close balance of making sure that haulers are kind of always paying attention, feeling like they're at risk, and wanting to maybe hire an escort based on where you might be. You might be hauling from one planet to another in Stanton and not feel that's necessary. But like if you're going through Pyro, make it feel like you need to have an escort, but also don't make it so that if you have an escort, suddenly you're getting attacked, right? It's like that escort might also just not have any combat to do. And finding that balance of creating dangerous enough paths to put traders on edge, maybe lead to an escort getting combat, maybe not, and also making sure everybody gets paid and feels like the time they spent was worth it is like makes cargo hauling missions really, really challenging to make. Do you think that they can balance that well with what they've explained so far?
I mean, I think they can. Honestly, I think we have a good example of it right now. So it's baby steps, but okay. If you're trading literally anywhere else besides SMO 18 on Microtech, your chance of running into someone is slim. Like you might run into a pirate or someone just looking to blow you up, on ETA, but I would say your chance of that is like arbitrarily 3%. So while it might be nice to bring like a friend, an escort, or at least just a turret gunner, most of the time you go there, that's not going to happen. Like you can trade and be fairly undisturbed. Now, if you're going to SMO 18 and you're trying to grab gold, like right now, that is a hot spot for every kind of action. If you want to get out, you bring friends. And I mean multiple friends. You're going to make a lot of money with that gold, slightly less after you've, paid your friends, but you're going to get in, you're going to buy it. But if you want to leave without getting a torpedo or just blown up so someone else can take your gold, you need to bring friends. And it's been like that long enough now that most of the populace knows that realistically they should bring protection if they want to get out. And I think we need more stuff like that. Now, not to the point where it gets so diluted, like when they opened up all the other, drug locations, that it's so spread thin that you can get in and get out because people are looking everywhere. But
Yeah.
if we could just have 1 or 2 places like that in each system where it's that high risk, high reward discount jump town gameplay, that would be great. And then if you wanted to do the whole NPC pirate thing, just have like security ratings. Like, oh, this outpost, has like medium pirate traveler or whatever, and just have that percentage chance of NPCs showing up. Obviously NPCs that are capable and not just there to take up your comm screen, but ones that could actually do damage or blow you up.
Mm-hmm.
If we could just have a system like that, where bringing on a friend is more viable, and also a profit margin where I can still pay them, then yeah, like that's all they need to do.
Yeah. I think that last part is really key, is like trying to figure out the balance of what people should be making off of these cargo trips. I mean, if you're going through a process like you're describing, where that 10 out of 10 times you're going to get attacked, then obviously it would be a little bit more expensive to run that route.
Yeah, like, I mean, I'll go down to SMO 18 just for fun to see what happens. If I lose the cargo, I lose the cargo. But if I'm actually looking to get out, I'll bring friends, and it's so fun too.
Yeah.
It's very exciting gameplay, and I wish I could get that in more places. Like the best trading gameplay I have had has been there. Most of the time when I'm losing the cargo, but it's still been phenomenal.
I think that's important. That kind of, some of these events that they're making, what is it? They just started talking about it. The data heist mission is one of these. Ghost Hollow is another one of these. These missions that kind of start because somebody has arrived and done something, and it spurs other people to get involved. I'm excited to see how they incorporate that style of mission into cargo hauling, because those feel like the real dynamic events they used to talk about, right? Something that has changed or happens because of the in-game conditions. Using that to make something like the cargo hauling that we're talking about work would be very cool.
Yeah, like it would be great. Like we need some sort of event, and honestly, I feel like you could retool the whole lockdown event. Oh, what was that called?
Ninetales
The block. Yeah, like the Ninetales blockades.
Yeah.
Like you could just retool that, especially now, because the medical supplies. One, as a hauler, you're going to make a ton of money. But if I can blow that ship up, take that cargo without getting blown up myself, and take it somewhere else and make that profit, that works too. Like if we could just see that, and I think Ninetales lockdown will actually be better now that we have the new cargo systems.
And they did say that they were either replacing it or reworking it with another. They have another dynamic event coming on, but I'm pretty sure they said in the monthly report that they've got work they're putting into Ninetales lockdown to change it to something else. I think they have something called Blockade Runner coming up.
Hey, that'll be nice to see. Like I hope it's more even, because like it is way more punishing as a criminal player than anything else. But yeah, that'll be nice to see.
Well, there's another thing that cargo is going to benefit from a lot too, is reputation. Like we don't have any way of knowing who it is that we're working with or working against, and we can't side with factions yet because the reputation is lacking. Is that something that you've ever thought would have a big hand in cargo hauling or trading?
I would love to see it actually have a big hand in it, because like, okay, let's say you spend a lot of time trading between certain companies. Like if you could get your rep up, where you get like discounts or extra profit, like if they're going to pay slightly more because you're a reliable hauler or just frequent customer, then they could actually make it more worthwhile to trade some of these trash commodities, because tungsten, the other lower things we have, like if you could get percentage off those prices, like individually, like in a small hauler, that's not going to be much. But if I can get 5% off the price with like a whole C's worth, if I could just keep gaining my rep, then that would give us reasons to invest in either certain types of commodities for certain clients, or just other runs where it's like, yeah, I've built my rep up with, example, titanium company. I'm making more with titanium with this increased rep than I could with something that without that rep would be a higher profit but would be more dangerous, and one, it would be a guaranteed route that you could keep doing. So yeah, I would love to see rep come in and actually affect what you could make, and give us reasons to go, yeah, I like this company. Well, I like these guys. And,
Yeah.
kind of separate a lot of the glut you see
It's like,
in everything going to one place.
and it's like all of the types of skills that you would see in a normal RPG. Like, oh, get this many points. I'm gonna start pulling examples from Starfield because it's a space RPG that just came out. Like, get this many points, and you'll be able to craft items of this level of rarity. That's something you could easily block behind reputation to say, well, you don't have access to the facilities to craft that kind of item. You gain your reputation with this group. Suddenly, you can. And going towards what you said about the commodities, what if also your storage fees or your hangar landing fees were decreased at space stations owned by a faction that likes you? Like, you could base your entire business around that.
And like that would be great. Like, I would love to see that. And like, I'm sure they have something planned for it, but we won't see that for years. But that is my ideal thing, to see something like that. And then, if we actually see stations, like station ownership changing hands, like if I show up and I'm good with Shubin, but suddenly, it's been bought out by, I don't know, example companies, like, oh, well, I'm not going to be able to trade here anymore unless I get in good with these guys. So my profits are going to be terrible. Like, I want to see changing hauling gameplay. I want to see reasons to get comfortable with a run, but need to change it up because of, comings and goings and different power struggles within commercial interests.
Right. Yeah, because we have 10% of the ability to change this economy, right? So with that kind of, we're not going player controlled in the economy, it's really going to help the game if the company can then create this sort of changing and dynamic market to keep trading interesting. Because if maybe the trading itself isn't super interesting, buying something, selling something, maybe hiring somebody else to truck it or trucking it yourself might be not the most interesting thing, but if it changes every week or every month based on things completely out of your control, based on some kind of missions or conflicts not getting answered and war becoming a bigger thing in that system, I feel like that's what could really make that sort of gameplay shine.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I want to see. I want to see. I just want to see some variety. Like, I don't care how it gets dressed up. I just want to see that. And like, I understand it takes a while, but I feel like the love we get is very few and far between when it comes to that.
What about the less thought about part of this kind of gameplay, which I think is the part that takes place in the hangar? The loading, the unloading, the buying, the selling. As of right now, they've gotten us into a position where they're starting to warm us up to that. We can see the loading timer with the Hull C. And we've seen some leaked inventory showing that there will be like workers that you have to pay and a certain amount of time it'll take for them to load your ship. It's going to be physicalized with tractor beams and all that stuff. What is your take on that whole sort of busybody segment of cargo hauling in this game? Is it too much? Do you think that they might mess it up, or is it headed in the direction that you really like?
I think it's going to be slightly more simplified once we get it. Like, we're still going to have the cargo loading, and we'll probably have like the option to pay more to get it loaded faster. But I can almost guarantee that physically watching NPCs loaded up is going to go out the door. Star Citizen and NPCs don't exactly have a very
they're best friends.
healthy relationship. I mean, they've been T-posing on chairs for years. I hope someone cosplays as a T-posing NPC on a chair at CitizenCon. But I feel like having to force cargo gameplay to rely on an NPC physically working is something that they might initially explore and then throw out, and then just do the, guys, listen, like, depending on what you pay, it'll load faster. There's not going to be actual NPCs. There might be NPCs walking around, but I guarantee you they're not going to have an NPC physically loading your ship, because every ship is different. The way you load every ship is going to be different. And I don't know if you've looked at like the way the Caterpillar is loaded now with the new boxes. But you get a couple of 24 SCU boxes, some 16 SCU boxes, a couple of 4s, and then just a whole bunch of 2s all in there. And I don't think they're going to be able to have NPCs working that that workflow in a way that's going to work, especially when the servers start getting bad. Like if I have to wait for an NPC to stop T-posing to finish loading cargo, I'll do it myself.
So you think that they're going to stick to the boxes just popping into ships and kind of just say, "Be gone with immersion. This is one that we're gonna have to cut a corner."
Yeah, I mean, like, okay, I don't have a problem with it. I understand others might have a problem with it, but I don't need the immersion of watching an NPC doing it. I'm okay with it popping in, and honestly, it would just save a ton when it comes to coding, I think. And now, like, loading it myself, that would be fine because one, that's cheap. I mean, technically, it should be free. If players want to do it, I'm sure they're still going to have that option because one, you don't have to code players. Players might be idiots on occasion. I know
Yeah,
I've done a lot of
teach them,
idiotic
which
things.
is
Yeah,
almost as frustrating.
yeah, but you don't have to code it. You can communicate and have friends doing it. You don't have to worry about coding that. That's content that players make. They don't have to worry about making any of that. And then if you don't want to load it, cargo timer. You can still sit in the hangar. I'm sure there'll be someone walking around with tractor beams, but that would save them so much work for something that doesn't really, I feel like, add a lot to the game.
That's fair. I think you make a good point with the whole NPCs doing it on their end. The most important part has always been that they want players to be able to do it, so you can load ships how you want, and the mass and the distribution of it all. But yeah, that is a good point.
Because like I don't know if you've got to mess with a whole lot, but the way that you actually load up now, you have to undock and then call this new cargo ATC.
Right. Which is very frustrating at times.
Yes, very frustrating. They have you park in the little box, and half the time it's, oh, there's something in the area. Could you come to a stop? And like, lady, I'm stopped.
Yeah.
No one's around. Please work. And just having this gameplay gate kept behind an NPC that doesn't work half the time is so frustrating. And hopefully they don't add more to that because it's just.
Well, ATC is something that's going to have to work well because
yeah,
if you want to land, you're going to have to work through them. But I do think that's something that we'll lose as the game gets more stable. The idea, the idea that the cargo loading could be something that's too much, at least on the NPC side, though, is almost like a design sort of thing. And I do wonder how much there's going to be pushback. We see with certain things like Death of a Spaceman when they started to incorporate medical stuff, or the inventories when they started to separate inventories and not let you have a great big bag of carrying everything. We'll see it when control surfaces come in. We will see it when the physical loading starts to come more online. Like, a lot of newer players don't know this stuff is planned. Do you think that the whole idea of physical loading is going to survive the initial reaction?
I mean, like, in a way, like, the thing with Star Citizen is we see so many concepts that get changed so much between concept phase and actual, release to game phase. And I mean, every game has that. You don't get to usually see that. Star Citizen, the development or, knowledge of development is in reverse. We get to know about ideas once they're drawn on napkins. Usually other game companies refine the idea and get it working before they tell you about it. And, it's nice to be on the early phase, but it can be frustrating at times. And yeah, like for new players coming in, it's like, oh, we're going to get this, and this. Like, well, actually, we've had this before, and they've iterated on it, and they've had to change to other things. And just like, especially with the death of a spaceman,
Yeah.
are we really sticking to that whole eventually my character dies and I have to make his cousin and then, he gets some stuff? Because nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to be like, oh, well, I'm playing my aunt twice removed or
I like
something
it.
like that. Yeah, you
Yeah,
wanna do that?
I don't think I don't think that it changes anything really that much. If you wanted to, you could probably make another character that looks the same as your old one. But I like the context that it does give to life in the game.
I mean, that's fair. Just, some people have that idea. It's like, I'm going to play, Spaceman Jones, and I will never die. His legacy will go forever.
Well, they better be pretty good then.
I mean, that's fair.
But I also don't see it as something that's going to happen every week, Like, I think if you are careful about it, you can probably avoid going through a character in less than a year.
I told myself that once we started getting the whole like the whole medical gameplay and like waking up in a hospital and stuff. And I think I blew myself up in the first hour after that.
Yeah, you're gonna want to have a couple extra insurance policies.
Yeah, my insurance has to be real good.
Well,
real good. I get in some
also
idiotic situations.
That's also a thing they've mentioned with that, though, is that you'll have ways to earn lives back and to help to prolong your stuff. So I just see it as basically another place where you can invest your time and money. It's another sink, another choice that you have on what's most important to you. Is it having the best ship components, or is it maintaining your character the longest?
I mean, that's fair. That's fair. And like with the whole, we've got the whole regeneration system now. I feel like that kind of changes how Death of a Spaceman is going to work. Because like, if I can just 3D print my own body again, like, can I just live forever? Does that throw out the whole like passing stuff on to other people?
Yeah, I mean, the details around it, they're gonna have a lot of fun, I think, figuring out.
Like, is there really a point to like whacking this guy for the space mafia if he could just 3D print himself again? Like, are we just trying to run his bank account out so he can't print himself?
Basically, yeah.
Is this going to be like that like the sixth day where it's like $1 million to print
It's just
one
insurance
guy?
fraud with less steps.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly. Like, does insurance even work anymore? Like, is life insurance a thing in space?
But it still has the weight behind it. I mean, it's diminished because they can die multiple times or whatever. But if the actual, like, if they acknowledge it as an NPC, that's one of the things that I liked about was the Shadow of Mordor games. Yeah, the guys could just come back to life as these weird extra put together monsters, but the fact that they would come back and recognize you and talk to you like something had happened, I think that's worth it on its own.
Oh yeah, like that was a great system. That was amazing. I mean, it was like the whole like, oh, I somehow survived and now I'm going to make it your problem.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you. But I would like to see that, more on the NPC side. It seems the whole coming back only seems to really apply to players right now. But again, alpha.
Yeah, everything only applies to players because server meshing hopefully has not been able to make NPCs realistic characters in the game yet for anything.
I mean, they finally got out of the chairs. That was a massive evolutionary step for NPCs.
Oh, they'll be back. They'll be back. They find their way out temporarily, but they always come back.
That is true.
Okay, so how about we talk about the changes? I want to take into account the stuff that happened with 3.18 since we didn't get to talk about that before.
Yeah.
Overall, what do you think of the way that these cargo refactor is progressing from having the ability to actually move and take boxes off of ships in 3.18 to now having the different sized cargo ships or cargo boxes? And I guess with obviously the foreknowledge that tractor beams are coming in a bigger way, probably in the following patch after 3.20. What are your thoughts on the way that they are moving through cargo functionality right now?
personally, okay, so I'm not gonna talk about the timeline part because I know they have different teams they have to pull from and whatnot. But like as far as the iteration, I love it. I think they've done an excellent job with it. Being able to move the boxes from one ship to another has been absolutely phenomenal for hauling gameplay. Now, 9 times out of 10, if you're just doing regular trade, you're not going to touch it at all right now. But okay, so I'm going to use this as an example, just right quick. The other day, I was hauling, and I got pirated, and I paid the pirate off, yada yada yada. But I was in a crap ton of combat. My ship was beat up. This thing is limping. Like ideally, I should not be trying to put it anywhere near where it has to touch land. Then I had a second pirate who was actually there to pirate the other pirate, but somehow wound up on my ship. So I had a weird pirate turducken situation. Anyway, he winds up on my ship. We deal with each other aggressively. But again, ship is messed up. I'm pulling it into the station. My engines give out. I slam into the back of the station. Ship explodes. Now, the cool thing is that I can take those boxes off the ship that has now exploded. And it takes forever, but I can unload them, get another ship in there, and load them up. And, like the ship might not survive, but the cargo sure can. And that is amazing. That is phenomenal that if I run into that situation or anything where the ship has to be, left behind, the cargo can still be moved, recovered, stolen, salvaged, anything else. And like for piracy, they haven't really had a lot of options because they're one SCU crates. So, you could maybe make money pirating someone with barrel, but gold's really where it's at. Because moving one SCU boxes of titanium is just not worth it. But
Yeah.
now that we've got larger crates, one that's gotta save some server load. Because with a C2 with 696 boxes, that's a lot versus like 12. That's bad math, but like now that we've actually got these larger boxes, one that opens up so much more for piracy, where it's like, wow, you know what? This is fluorine, but it's going to take us all of 5 minutes to move it, and I no longer need an entire loading team. Or like, oh, here's some nice logistical issues. This is a 32 SCU box, but my ship can only hold 14. Do I have a friend? Yeah, do I have a friend I can call? Like, hey, I've got this nice score. You've got a big ship. I don't. Could I get you over here? And it's really nice to see. One, for ease of loading and unloading and just all other types of gameplay. And I have been really excited about it. And I know they're going to probably, in a later patch, have like a tractor beam rifle or some sort of tractor beam thing for the larger boxes. But for now, they're letting us move everything with a multi-tool, which is great. Maybe we'll get like a tractor beam mule that they'll sell us for $75 to move the 32 SCU boxes. But
I keep saying a Rock DS with a tractor beam would be a great vehicle.
If they put like a tractor beam on top of it, like a turret, then I would hate it, but I would wait till it came in game and bought one.
Yeah.
And or just like a little forklift. Like if they would attach a tractor beam turret to an Argo cargo, I would buy that. I would buy the crap out of that.
Well, that's
little space.
That's what it's for.
Go ahead. Yeah, exactly. But it's only got those 2 SCU boxes it can hold on the back. But if they put a tractor beam mount, a little turret, I'm sold.
No, that thing is actually it goes with the Hull C, because the Argo cargo is meant to be a little tug that has a tractor beam on it that can carry 32 SCU boxes and plop them onto a Hull C. See, this whole time I thought it was just for the 2 SCU boxes in the back. That makes a lot more sense. Hopefully they actually update that. Limiting its use just a little bit. But that's going to be the case. I mean, this idea of physicalized cargo holding changes the hierarchy of ships. The Nomad is such a valuable ship when that comes online, when they get their ship tractor beams, and when you need ship tractor beams to move those larger boxes. That becomes an incredibly valuable ship. And like the whole idea behind how cargo is being handled in this game sort of changes how that works and also how piracy works, like you were saying earlier. If you take down a Hull C and it's got 32 SCU boxes of gold, you want that gold. That's so much. But you also have to set up like a semi-permanent operation to figure out how you're going to exfiltrate it while keeping it safe and making sure to defend against the folks coming back to try and get it. That's entirely different from a game where you can blow up a ship and then loot it by hitting a button when you walk up to the, or go up to the cargo boxes, and it changes the gameplay.
And it's just, it's really nice to see. Like, it's kind of sad for the Caterpillar since it can't hold the 32 SCU boxes, but at the same time, you can also do the whole, well, if I fly this ship, it has a crap ton of very small boxes. Maybe people will be too lazy to deal with that, and maybe I can get by on someone's laziness too.
Just purposely load your ship with only 1 SCU boxes.
Yes. I actually, okay, so I haven't tried it with like with ground-based ships yet. But I did try buying 64 SCU of whatever for Hull C's, 1 SCU transaction at a time. And sadly, it went ahead and packaged it up as 2 32 SCU boxes. But yeah, I'm going to go back and try it with the land-based ones to see if I can just do a transaction, 1 SCU, 1 SCU. And if you just hate people that much, if you want to be that much of a jerk, just make 600 transactions. It's like, all right, you can pirate it, but hopefully the server lasts as long as you do.
Unfortunately, you also have to deal with time and probably the hurting thumb after pressing the button so many times. Whatever button your finger you're using to press that button.
Yeah, no, it's a long wait. I would not suggest doing it. It's one of those, like, you can test it to see if it works, but why would you ever do it?
Why would you? The ultimate question. Send your responses to Jack Axton's email. Make sure to tag him specifically on that one.
Hey, I'll take it.
So the changes have been going pretty well, as it sounds like you're saying, when it comes to the cargo refactor. We clearly have plenty more to go. This has been split up into multiple different updates. The next stuff that we're looking at is, do you think it's going to be a combination of like the freight elevators and tractor beams, or what do you think's the next step for the cargo refactor?
I feel like you're right there. Like, it has to be one, the tractor beams, which I understand them not wanting the multi-tool to be able to do everything when it comes to super huge boxes. Like, I get it, like having a dedicated item or, a little spaced forklift. But yeah, like, the elevators, having a situation, no, it goes back to like the whole loading and unloading, doing it yourself, putting it on your team, and then obviously adjusting profits to match. But yeah, like, I want to see more use for hangars. I want to see cargo elevators come in, and I want a reason for the cargo decks on orbital stations to be in the game. Honestly, that's the thing I want the most. They made those forever ago. Like, what, 312, 313? They had no gameplay whatsoever. And now that we have cargo loading at stations, they're still not used. I have literally no reason to go there. Like, they should just move the trade kiosks to the cargo decks just so I have a reason to go.
Yeah,
because
why is it in the admin center?
Exactly. Like,
what is that?
Why are they buying and selling? Like, they are purely administrative work. Like, move the trade kiosks that involve cargo to the cargo deck.
See, that's, again, another thing where they probably have something that they're going to do, a big changeover that they have planned, and they don't want to do the little things in the meantime, and rather just do it all at once. But I'm in agreement with you. I mean, you would think that we would have docking ports and hangars in the cargo deck specifically for commercial cargo ships. The Hull C's coming in as a commercial cargo ship. The next thing I would expect,
so much stuff.
Why is that?
Okay, so have you done a lot of trading in the Hull C yet?
No.
Okay, let me, if I can deviate right quick. If I can give you a quick rundown on how it works.
All right.
All right, so you're in your Hull C. You show up to a station. You dock. You go inside. You have to store the ship to buy or sell cargo. So you store the ship, take the elevator down to admin. You buy your cargo. You go back out. You spawn your ship, detach or undock, then fly to a random space near the cargo area, and then they load up your ship, and you gotta wait 5 minutes or whatever. Um, you wanna sell and then buy at the same place. You have to double that. You have to dock, store, go down, sell, pull it back out, go to the area, let it unload, redock, store the ship, buy again, come back out, spawn the ship, go back, let it load up. You have to double it up, and it's so needlessly tedious.
Yeah.
And someone pointed out a good like a point that the reason that it's done like this instead of them like loading or unloading while it's stored, which I think would be the best way to do it, was that it helps the server load entities. That way, it's not loading a few dozen boxes at once. It's doing it one at a time, and I get that. That's a great point. And then it was brought up, hey, why don't they just load it while it's at the docking port? And that would be great, except for some strange reason, CIG designed all the orbital stations, which are literally the focal point of space traffic for a city, to only have 2 docking ports each.
Yeah.
So there's no, like having that take up 5-10 minutes doesn't make sense. But if we took like what you said, and we had dedicated docking ports at the cargo deck, so it's like 10 ports per station specifically for the cargo decks, then you could use the whole the dock, go right inside to the cargo deck, buy or sell, and while it's loading or unloading, while still attached to the docking port, you could just go about the station, buy stuff, treat it like a truck stop. That would be amazing. That would be phenomenal. And that way you could still have the whole, not assaulting the server with entities loading at the same time, and still have the same process, essentially.
Well, that is how the spaceships are built. They're all modular. We've got our security deck, our cargo deck, our refinery deck, and our regulars position. I feel like every one of those different decks should have their own landing services, because you're going to have bounty hunters coming in just in the security section. You're going to have miners coming in just in the refinery, cargo haulers coming in just from cargo, and then you have the regular people who are stopping off for little breaks coming into the normal rest and relax area. And it is kind of frustrating that we haven't heard talk about doing something like that specifically with the stations, when we also simultaneously hear about how these stations do have these modules. I mean, Port Olisar is being removed so that Seraphim Station can come with these modules, but they're still not really defining these modules, even from a design perspective for us.
Yeah, and I feel like there's a lot of I feel like with this type of gameplay too, or just adding these things in, they've designed the cart long before the horse has evolved. Like,
Still a donkey.
yeah, like not even that. It's some sort of like primordial like rat monkey that's running around trying to avoid dinosaurs. And they go, okay, let's design the cart for that. And then by the time they get the cart built, it's badger sized. And then they redesign the cart, and then it's one of those giant Australian sloth things. And then they redesign the cart, and then it's a horse. And it's just yeah, like they're designing the ships and the set pieces long before they've actually got the gameplay designed, and then realize that the system they have, while it technically works, barely works for the system.
Yeah, I think they got trapped into. There are some things that really are questionably made like that. The cargo decks are one of them. Those I think those may have been planned back when they thought that the cargo refactor would happen a lot earlier, possibly maybe even before they thought they would need server meshing to be there or persistent entity streaming to be there at the same time as the cargo refactor. So maybe they put
Yeah.
those locations in early, but they do have this problem of needing to put the cart before the horse because the cart is what funded the development of that horse, you know?
I mean, that is true. Like, the cart's nice. It's got that bass boat glittery, pinstriping to it. And, like, you got to sell the cart. Like,
Got sparkles.
selling the cart, yeah, it definitely has the sparkles, the sound system. Oh, the whole sea. I mean, they had that. I mean, that thing was essentially, okay, design-wise, like, it was out of white box and getting, like, final details. Now, physically, it's not, for the whole spindle transformation stuff, but they had that thing ready to go pretty much like in late 2018, 2019.
Yeah, we had
And
footage.
yeah, like, they had to sit in dust and wait for forever for all the other technologies it needed, which is, no fault of its own or CIGs. Like, they had to do everything by hand. But yeah, like, they've got to sell the cart and they need a picture of the cart, but the cart's supposed to be designed for the horse. And I don't know if there's a solution to that. Like, that's maybe just something they have to grit and deal with and rework.
Yeah. And I think the biggest example of that's going to be watching engineering gameplay get applied to every ship slowly over the course of the next several years.
Honestly, if they would just steal the gameplay from Pulsar Lost Colony, then engineering would be 100% ready to go. It would be phenomenal.
If only. If only it was so easy. All right. How about the other form of transportation? You know what I'm talking about?
We talking the cargo that complains, passengers?
The cargo that complains. Everybody's favorite. What about personnel transport? Where do you think they are with that?
Probably back on the napkin. I say that. They probably have things designed for it. But that's probably waiting on a lot of those technologies, like server meshing and everything else that requires you to have an NPC that works, that is able to get on and off of your ship. Because they can't just do what Elite Dangerous does, where your passenger is literally just a cargo box with a different name tag that occasionally types something in chat. Like, you can see the interior of your ship in Star Citizens. That's going to require, like, one, seeing the passengers, watching them, like, do actual animations and whatnot. And I know we almost had it, and then they had to take it off of one of the patches.
Yeah.
We haven't really seen anything on it since. So there's probably a lot of technology that is gatekeeping that type of gameplay from us for a while, which makes me sad, but it can't be helped because I'm actually super excited for passenger gameplay. I've got an E1 spirit that I cannot wait to make people throw up in.
That is actually gameplay I was hoping we might see this year, and they just have not talked about it at all, which is kind of disappointing. I thought maybe it would be coming with the E1. Is that your go-to personnel transport ship?
Yeah, I mean, it's small, it's fast, it's light. Like the Genesis, I mean, we've only got really two dedicated passenger ships, like the E1 and the Genesis. And I've got a sneaking suspicion that the Genesis is going to become a reworked C2 with, just passenger setup down below, which is fine. Like, one, the original Genesis does not fit the Crusader brand.
You think they'll make it like a C2 rather than just reworking the Genesis into the new branding of Crusader?
I mean, I feel like they'll take a lot of inspiration. Like, they'll initially build off the C2. Now, it won't just be like a variant, or it's just, the exact same build with the interior swapped. But I mean, like, if you look at the C2, like, you've got your engineering and crew deck on top, and then a bunch of space down below that could very easily be a very large passenger module. Like, you add some displays for windows because it technically can't get out to where the windows are, or even swap it. Put the passenger area up top and then crew decks below so they can get a nice passenger view. Rework the hull very so slightly, and I think it would work. I wouldn't even be upset about it. That'd be beautiful.
Well, as somebody is pointing out in chat, there are a couple of, I think, variations or variants of the Genesis Starliner as well. I think there's one called is it the Hurricane? No, the Jupiter Starliner, I believe, or something like that. So they might be stuck having to make a couple of different versions of it.
I mean, that's fair too.
I would love to see that old design brought up to Crusader styles, because the old design still looks pretty cool and unique.
Yes, it's beautiful. Like it has that like 1950s retro futuristic brushed metal look to it.
Mm-hmm.
You expect to see something like on a poster.
It's quite majestic.
Yeah, like it's got that kind of like discount Rocketeer look.
The dollar store origin.
Yeah, I mean, not even dollar store. I'm going to say like the $12 store. It's not the same, but it was definitely in the same store before it got sent to the discount store.
It's like a good pack of socks. Maybe a shirt at the outlet.
Ooh, that sounds nice.
So you are an E1 man, and you will be doing passenger transport as well as the cargo stuff?
Oh, yeah. I mean, basically, as long as I can transport it, I'll try to move it.
Okay. And do you think that we'll hear about any of those things getting a significant update at CitizenCon?
I would love to be hopeful. I would really love to be hopeful. I would like to see a whole new gameplay type come online with whatever we're getting at CitizenCon. And you know what? Why not? Let's gamble. I'm going to say yes. Why not? Because they had it on the cards. They took it out. So that means they've at least done some sort of work on it. And, if we get Pyro, and it's like, hey, guess what? Not only do we have Pyro, but now we have people who want to go there, and they're going to need your help. If we could get that, then that would be great. And honestly, they could fake it. I wouldn't even care. If it was a whole, if I had to go to a terminal and say, there's these passenger missions, people looking for stuff, and then they just appear in my ship before I get to the ship, and then just reverse once I get there, I'd be fine with that. They don't have to walk on and off. I would be fine with that system.
Unfortunately, I don't know if they feel like putting in gameplay systems like that anymore.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, this is just me, one person.
It's just what I want. Tomato, don't shoot it down.
You don't even have to agree with me. I get it. I get that some people want to be able to even talk to these dudes. Hi,
need to make them custom drinks.
Yeah, it's could you get me to Lorville, please? And then watch them walk onto the ship and then sit down, and that would be great. Ideally, in a perfect world where NPCs don't T-pose on chairs, that would be phenomenal. And then just hearing all that little chitter chatter in the background, and the sighs and drinks clinking and whatnot, while you're getting them there, that would be beautiful.
That'd be so much.
But yeah, I hope we see something about that at CitizenCon, because one, it's a perfect venue to announce, a new gameplay type. And I feel like it would be really in their interest to package that with a new system. I mean, I don't think they can really hold Pyro back anymore, since we've had 2 CitizenCons about it. 3, technically, if you count the Carog jumping to Pyro.
Yeah.
When they showed the Carog off.
Yeah, I'll say the passenger. You're talking specifically about passenger transport here, right?
Yeah, but anything I can get, really.
I would say a design brief at least would be really nice to see on that. I mean, they gave us a design brief on investigation missions just last CitizenCon, something that I would have figured we would have gotten into the game within 6 to 8 months of them showing it. I'm actually quite surprised that we haven't heard anything else about those investigation missions. I think they came on and said a little bit about it during the mission segment with Elliot and some of the other mission features team people earlier this year, but I really would have expected those to be in game by the next CitizenCon. So assuming that personnel transport is no less than a year out, I would really like to see a design brief on it just to know kind of what we should be expecting.
Yeah, it would be great. And I mean, we saw how long it took us to get salvage, but you know, I'd love to at least have some sort of timeline on it. I know timelines and CIG don't really
they love
mesh. Yeah. But just I feel like just so many things that get shown off, and then they kind of lower the volume when they talk about the prerequisite technologies needed to make those things work. Like, okay, so we had quantum years ago, like what, 4 years ago?
Yeah.
At like when the Carog got shown off, and they were talking about how great that's going to be for trade and everything else, and it's going to do all this stuff. And it wasn't just for trade, but that was a lot of the examples they used. And now, I think last month, they just announced that they have an economy team. That they just put together an economy team.
Mm-hmm.
So what? And again, I could be wrong. So you're telling me that all the work that's been done has just been laying the foundation for quantum working, and now, just now, 4 years later, we have people just now touching the economy.
I don't think that's necessarily what they're saying. I think that the systemic services and tools team is shifting their priority a bit more towards economy, because they were doing things outside of the economy as well, and it might just be that now that work has started to finish up, so they're more specializing the team. But I do think that they were still working on it.
That's fair. And I'm not talking just like trade economy, but like everything, as far as like sinks and like stuff to pay for and whatnot. Yeah. And like, I understand that it takes a long time to lay that foundation, but we're just now getting some of these things that go on top of the foundation too. Like, tell us a little bit more. Like, introduce us to the economy team.
We really need an update on economy, no matter what is going on with that. That's something that I'm really looking forward to seeing at CitizenCon. There's been no confirmation that it will be there, but I don't think they could go another year without giving us something more substantial on the economy, because that's holding back a lot of people. Like that's what half of our conversation today was about, is just the idea of how the economy works and creates job opportunities for folks.
Exactly. Like, I'm going to CitizenCon, and I plan to ask, if I can, lots of annoying economy-based questions, just to see if I can get any sort of clarification on those. Because I know we all want them, but I just want some answers. I just want to know. I want to know some things.
I will catch back up with you on that then after CitizenCon to see what they tell you.
They'll probably ask who I am and then call security. But
hey, this guy's a box.
Yeah, the worst I can do is try. It's like, oh, it's that guy.
What else besides this stuff are you really looking forward to seeing at CitizenCon, or hoping shows up at CitizenCon?
Well, I'm sure we'll get some sort of brand new, shiny, straight to flyable ship. Ideally, a ship based on some new gameplay type we'll be getting. That would be really cool to see. But finally getting access to Pyro. It's been a long road to Pyro. It's been a few times just turned into a dirt road, a couple of detours, getting turned around. But I would love to see that finally come out so we can focus on other things. And this is I'm aiming super lofty here. You can shoot me down, but I want to see an announcement about Squadron 42 coming out. Not 2 years from now, but an actual date. Just because I would like to see all those things, all those resources, all those people redirected to the game that all of us actually bought. because, I mean, I know a lot of people want to play Squadron 42, but when you go to the website, it really advertises Star Citizen. All those ships they have for sale on the Pledge Store are for Star Citizen. Like, Squadron 42 isn't even in the store anymore. So I'm really, really hoping that they happen to announce something, some sort of tangible, achievable date, not the 2 years from now we've been told since 2014. Because I remember when I was at CitizenCon in 2018, it was 2 years from then, and that's kind of been a repetition. But if we could just have those to get them out of the way and have resources dedicated to the PU, I will buy Chris Roberts a cake.
Yeah, it's
if that happens.
It's the real elephant in the room with this development is the game that at this point can't even be bought, that is taking up most of the resources that people think is going into Star Citizen. A little iffy. And yeah, I think their messaging surrounding that could be better, but they also realize that they need that funding to keep coming to get Squadron finished, which if we're all lucky, we'll end up meeting Squadron, then funds a lot of Star Citizen, but their messaging is less clear about that than I think they should be. And I can understand why people come away being frustrated when they do find out that most of this process is going into Squadron first, even if it is coming to Star Citizen later. Obviously, people aren't seeing that just yet, and we've been being told this whole kind of new system has been functioning for, I think, over a year and a half now. So folks are expecting those kinds of benefits to come from that change in the development style, and I think maybe server meshing has held them back, but folks are getting frustrated because of it. I do also hope that we hear something about Squadron at CitizenCon, but I don't know.
I mean, I would love to see the bedsheet deformation technology in Squadron 42 translate over to Star Citizen. That way I can fold my bed sheets in the Starfarer with absolute fidelity.
Starfarer's got great sheets.
Yeah, it's got those cute little star sheets with a little rocket ship. But I want to see something on Squadron 42 just so it can get out of the way. I passed on the initial Kickstarter for Star Citizen because at the time it was Squadron 42 with a small multiplayer module, and that multiplayer module grew into Star Citizen. But I didn't sign up for a single player game. I signed up to do some multiplayer stuff and irk people.
Yeah.
And watching, like you said, watching it take up the bulk of the resources that have been initially acquired because they were selling Star Citizen has been frustrating.
Yep. And that is a lot of people's key focus. I hope we do hear something about Squadron this year, though. It's about time. All right, Jack. Thank you so much for joining me for the show today, man. Appreciate you coming on to talk about some cargo stuff and lament about the lack of progress towards your favorite gameplay. Is there anything you wanted to finish off with?
Man, I can't think of anything, too drastic. I'm hopeful. The Halsey initial implementation is a little, but sometimes you have to build a few crappy houses before you get the hang of building a really nice house. So I'm disappointed, but I will hang on, and I have hope. I think we'll get it turned around. So. Despite my whinging and whining, somehow I have faith they'll make it all right. So I think that's everything I've got.
We're gonna see. Once 3.20 comes out, once CitizenCon hits, whatever they leave us with is, I think, what we can go forward expecting for the next year and a half from this game. Could be disappointing, could be exciting, but at this point, we have to assume that what they're not talking about is not coming anytime soon. So we'll see what comes of CitizenCon. We'll see what starts to happen after 3.20 goes live. But until then, Jack, if you could let folks know where they might be able to find your own content for some extra box enjoyment.
Of course. I always appreciate the shout out. If you're interested in watching some cargo and hauling gameplay with the occasional pirate interaction thrown in. More often than not these days, you can find me at YouTube, Jack Axton. And that's it. That's all you can find me at, is straight on YouTube, the Red Twitch.
That's not making things too hard. That's actually quite nice. One central location for all Jack goodness, YouTube.
Because I'm lazy.
Well, folks, I'd like to thank you all again for coming and joining. If you're watching this on YouTube or Twitch live, sometimes we do these live. You can come and get an idea of when that's going to happen, usually on Discord shortly beforehand, but also if you just watch the live stream. But you might also be listening to this on audio platforms. This show is ad-free on any platform where you might get your audio podcasts. And they're super easy to download. Don't trust me? Try it yourself. Download the last 10 episodes and listen to them on your next road trip. Promise you won't be disappointed. But anyways, I'd like to thank everybody for coming. Thank you all for hitting me up on the live stream. And folks, this has been your Launch Sequence podcast, as always, looking at space game stuff. And I'll catch y'all next week. Have a good one.